You're listening to Success Through Connections, the podcast where we explore the power of relationships in business and in life. This episode is brought to you by Up Until Now, helping business professionals turn the page to their next chapter of success.
We're back with another episode of Success Through Connections, and I have a dynamite duo father-daughter act with us today. I'm very excited. They are some experts when it comes to golf and how it relates to the business world. So let me talk a little bit about who they are and a little bit about their background, and then we'll get started. So first we have Mark Berman. He is a consultant. He's been a consultant for, I believe it's been 15 years now, where he works with small to mid-sized businesses to help them with their strategic planning and implementation. He worked before that for Safariland, which is a $250 million global company. They are in the police protection equipment business. He has been the director of corporate marketing at World Golf Village, and he was responsible for the implementation of getting sponsorships. Very good subject there. So he worked with the gurus over there at Shell Oil, IBM, and Wachovia Banks. He also served as the director of marketing, running the PGA Tour Partner Strategic Business Unit. And he has owned a franchise in the in the Tallahassee area for a number of years, where he launched the PXG Women's Match Play Championship. Actually, he did that in Jacksonville. So I got that a little messed up. Right. Yeah, he had Garage Tech. Garage Tech
kind of
was
combined
in
two
Tallahassee.
things there, right?
I'll get it right. Yeah.
Also in Jacksonville.
That's right. And he was the top franchise owner of the year for 2 years in a row. That's pretty cool achievement. And then he started this PXG Women's Match Play Championship, the first professional women's golf tournament in nearly 50 years in the area. And he sold it in 2023. Wow, that's awesome. And he's been inspired with women's golf because of his daughter, Hannah, who's now a professional. No, she's a retired professional golf professional. I understand that her golf career as a professional was cut short only because of an injury. So I know that she was ranked at Jacksonville University with her team 235th. That's pretty cool. And she has won numerous awards. She works with the country clubs over there as a pro teacher or trainer in the Naples, Florida area. So she's building a women's golf experience business, organizing golf trips exclusive to women golfers of all abilities. So I'm assuming that means from the very beginners to the elite. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's about right.
So welcome. So I hope I did y'all justice on that. It's like their background is enormous. So I'm so honored to have y'all here on the show. But I'm going to dive right in, and either one of y'all just jump in and answer. Both of you, we just want to hear what you have to say about it. So I know that golf lessons you learn on the golf course can be implemented in your business life. I've never advanced beyond the basic beginner of golf. So I may not get some terms right and saw that. So you have to bear with me, and I apologize in advance. But golf is a mental game and it's a physical game. And I was just curious, how do you stay focused after a bad shot to bounce right back? And how can you apply that to the business world?
I'll start it off. Hannah, unless you want to start it off.
Go for it.
So I think it's one of the places where golf and business are very similar, right? You've got to have the mental resolve to be able to bounce back. I mean, we've written a book, The Art of Bouncing Back. I've often called Hannah the queen of bouncing back. It's just it's a mindset, and it's part of the training, and it's part of I think it's part of the experience of being in business, and part of the experience that you earn as a golfer at whatever level, that your last shot is your last shot, and it was either good or it was bad. In a lot of cases, in my case, it was bad. And then you move on to the next shot. In a business world, you move on to the next meeting, the next phone call, the next conversation, the next dialogue, whatever that looks like, next project. And they're not always going to be winners, and you've got to be able to kind of brush yourself off and make the most of the next opportunity.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes in the business world. What about you, Hannah? Any one thing you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's, in golf, your next shot can always be better. And if you had a bad last shot, you carry that with you to your next shot, you know, you're pretty much setting yourself up to hit the next shot poorly. So you have to always have that erasure mentality of going into your next shot, like, okay, that one was bad. What do I need to do better on my next one to be better? If you dwell on the past shot, you know, you're constantly looking into the past instead of looking, what can I do better in the future? Always big with any golfer that you come across, the next shot is the most important, is the one you're hitting, but the second next best shot is the next one that's coming. So what can you do to prepare for your next best shot? Just like in business, you know, I don't have as much knowledge in the business world, but with the golf world, I know that, you know, you're always trying to be better for your next shot. So always looking just one step ahead, not a million miles down the road, but how can you be better, 1% better every single time?
That's great advice, not to be looking. So I have that problem of looking so far in the future that it's like, no, take, you know, it's like the elephant in the room, take a one little bite at a time. So,
Right.
so
Right.
that, that is great advice, Hannah. Thank you with that one. I got to remember that for myself. So if there's strategies for staying calm, I'll know that if there's a crisis, or maybe not a crisis, but how do you strategize to stay calm and to problem solve when you're under stress, especially if you're in a tournament or something? There's some stress going on there.
Yeah, I think the best advice that I ever got was not to be afraid of the nerves. The nerves are going to come when you're in a big tournament. They're going to happen. It shows that you care. That was the best thing I was ever told. The nerves show that you care. So instead of being like, okay, don't be nervous, push it down, accept that you're nervous, understand it, be like, I'm nervous because I care and I want to perform at my best. And I know that I have the tools that I need to perform at my best. So take those nerves and kind of harness them and reshape them into something that you can use to better yourself instead of pushing them down. And no, I'm not nervous, I'm fine. We all know how that goes. Eventually we bottle it all up and it all explodes eventually. So kind of accepting it and be like, okay, I know I'm nervous. I know I can work through this. Breathing is always good. Remember just to be slow. Typically, you know, in any scenario, when we get anxious in a good way or a bad way, we start moving very quickly. We start looking too far ahead into the future, or gosh, I really hope I don't screw this up. But if we can recenter and bring it back to the present moment, this is your moment, this is your shot. It's okay to be nervous and take it one step at a time. That's always how I tried to slow myself down a little bit, was just remembering to accept the nerves, be in the moment, and know what you're good at.
That's
And I think the way that translates into the business world is very similarly, whether you're giving a presentation, whether you're giving a speech, whether you're going on an interview, whether you're on a podcast, whatever it might be, it's the same lessons that apply. It's not to look too far down the road, not to be, you know, scared of your audience, to embrace the moment and realize that, yep, you're going to be nervous and everybody in this position would be nervous. And it's time to own those nerves and help them motivate you and hope they make you better.
It reminds me of when I watch on occasion the television shows where they're like the American Idol and those types of singing ones, and they get on the stage and they're so nervous, and it's like, take a breath.
Right.
Take a breath. I'll go sit on the patio and watch nature. Calms me down. Then I can regroup. Now, when you're in the middle of a golf game, you can't do that, but it's the same. It's just, you just move on. You become resilient. So do you have pre-game routines and habits to set you up for success?
I know I did. Everybody has their own process and their own routine. Like mine was starting putting, moving to chipping, full swing, back to putting, just kind of building up to those bigger swings, taking my time, making sure I get to the range with enough time to warm up. I'm not rushed. I'm not stressed. Everyone's looks a little different, from, you know, being very superstitious, like which shoe you put on first, what number golf ball you might use. I don't think those are bad things. I think whatever you can do to make yourself comfortable, like I'll only play with golf ball numbers 2 and 3, but I will always start with the 3. And if I have to, I'll move down to a 2. But everybody has their own little comfort things. But the routine is also what can really bring you back into that present moment, going through your pre-shot routine, knowing that you have these routines in place to keep you centered, keep you focused. When you start to spiral, the one thing you can always come back to is your routine. How in my process can I be to stay focused, to stay on task? Because then it makes you centered on one thing instead of your brain wandering into a million other directions of the what ifs. If you can stay in your process and think about what you need to be doing, it keeps you really centered.
That's
Great. And I think and for me, it's similar in business, where I keep my processes very simple. When I'm giving a presentation, giving a speech, I try to not overdo it. I try to not over practice and over rehearse because I'm better when I'm speaking off the cuff with a little bit of guidance, right? So I'll have bullet points in front of me and I'll speak to the bullet points. And prior to a presentation, prior to an interview, prior to a meeting, I'll take some deep breaths. I'll review some notes. I'll do a little homework on the people in the room. And that process helps me ground myself from the standpoint of both nerves and preparation. And I think it's all about preparation, right?
I think that's great advice as well. I know that for me, I have a couple of different businesses, and it would just get so confusing that I finally figured out how to organize it. On Mondays, I'm only going to concentrate on this company. On Tuesdays, this. On Wednesdays, that. And then I left Thursdays and Fridays. Okay, this is catch up. If you miss something for one of the companies, Monday through Wednesday, Thursdays and Fridays is catch up day.
Yeah, it's funny. I do the same thing. Monday is my St. John food service company day, right? Because I have multiple clients. Tuesday is my Alhambra theater day. Wednesday is kind of my self day where I'm doing my self-care and doing my preparation for whatever might hit on Thursday and Friday, because those seem to be the days that things hit. So I do the same thing and sort of isolate days per client.
And self-care is so important. You mentioned that. It's like, I know that me personally, I've neglected it. It's like, I just worked 7 days a week. And that's when it was like, wait a minute, the end of my days, I don't want it to be all she did was work. So I'm doing everything I can to take Saturdays and Sundays, no work. Now, I did get a call from one of my staff members who is overseas on a Saturday morning. He goes, can we have a quick meeting? I go, yeah, which was a 2-hour meeting, but that was okay because
Right.
after that meeting, I was done for the day.
Yeah. But you have to accept that, right? You have to accept that things on the golf course don't always go your way. There's always going to be a hiccup. You're always going to need to be creative and have a solution, just like you are in the business world.
Yeah.
Right? There's always a hiccup. You know, one of the things that we say a lot in the golf world and in the business world is control your controllables. And as long as you're focused on those things, the other things that happen along the way are going to happen. You know they're going to happen. You don't know what they are. But as long as you can take those 2, 3, 4, 5 things that are within your domain and you can control them, then you're going to be in a better shape when the surprises happen.
And that brings me to, how do you anticipate potential issues and make adjustments on the golf course?
Yeah, adjusting for things that happen on the golf course is always going to be a challenge. Like wind might be a factor. You might get a pop-up rainstorm. You might get a wind that's blowing a different way, or there's a million things that can happen out there with the elements. But I think your training always comes back to doing what like my dad said, controlling your controllables. We're trained to play in the wind. We're trained to play in the rain. Know that you can do it, instead of saying, oh God, it's raining, or the wind is blowing in a different direction, I'm lost. You're not lost. You have all the tools that you need. You just have to remember how to use them. So any element, instead of facing it with, oh God, why do I have to deal with this? It's okay, I get to deal with this, and I get to use all of my knowledge to face a new challenge and grow and be better from it.
That's true. You wanted to add to that, Mark?
No, I agree with that. I think that, again, like I said, there's always going to be a surprise and you don't know what it is. That's why they call it a surprise. So as long as you're prepared and know what you're supposed to do, then whenever you're faced with that surprise, you're going to be able to control it a little bit better.
And I hate surprises.
I do too. I'm not good with surprises.
It's like, yeah, in business and life, I'm always like, do you want a surprise? Like, no.
No,
I
never.
don't want a surprise.
Yeah, I think I'm one of those rare people that don't mind it and that actually thrive in a little bit of chaos and change. I actually like change. So, and I think it's what makes me a good consultant is things are constantly changing, right? Like every hat I wear, right? You as well. Every hat I wear is a different change, right? So you've got to be kind of prepared for all of that.
Yeah, if you can't adjust to change, you're in trouble. So
Right.
yeah, because the world is changing every day. I mean, we were talking about it before, how computer software programs, it's working great today, and they decide they're going to change it somehow just so that you're going to be annoyed.
Right.
Right. Never fails.
So how do you balance taking risks? Because I'm assuming you have to take a risk sometimes on that golf course, and playing it safe. How do you balance that? And what's your decision-making process along those lines?
It's a really good question. I think a lot of it comes down to knowing where you are on the golf course and where you might be on the leaderboard. If you're trying to make a cut, maybe you be a little, there's reason to say maybe you take that risk. If you're on the cut, maybe you go for a little bit of a riskier shot where if the reward could be big enough, then, and you make the cut that week, maybe it's worth it. Some people might take the opposite approach of, I'm right on that cut line. If I play it safe, if I play it steady, I'm going to be fine. I will take my medicine. I think that's very player dependent too. Like a more aggressive player is going to have a more aggressive line, and a safer player is going to have a safer line, but that's knowing your skills and your boundaries. But there's a ton of times when you have to think about the risk reward on the golf course, and you might not, you have a shot clock in golf, but you've got the time walking up to your next shot to think about your risks and rewards. But once you get to your golf ball, you have to be ready and confident in your decision. This is the decision that you made. Go into it 110%. If it didn't work out, you gave it 110%. And if it did work out, you gave it 110%.
Advice, because I could think of me walking on that golf course, changing my mind 10 times before I got to that golf ball.
As long as you pick one, by the time you get there, you've done your job. Just as long as you're not standing over your golf ball, like hoping. The worst thing you can do is stand over and be like, well, I hope this works. Like same thing if you walk into a meeting and you don't prepare, like, well, I hope this goes well. Like it's probably not going to go well. But if you prepare to do well, and by the time you get to that meeting, at least you have the foundation of it to do well.
Yes. And it's like your dad was saying, he may not have the whole speech written down, but he's got those bullet points and
Right.
knows what they are. So you're prepared. You know what
Yeah.
you're doing going into the game.
Exactly. Yeah. As long as you're decently prepared, you'll be all right.
Yes. So I know for a fact, I know this about golf. It's a networking opportunity. I hear all the time that deals are made on the golf course. So have you ever made a meaningful connection on the course? And why do you think that golf is such a powerful environment for business relationships?
Are you missing out on connections that could change everything? The ultimate networking playbook from Up Until Now is your secret weapon, packed with proven scripts, expert tips, and the must-dos and don'ts for today's modern networker. Whether you're showing up in person or online, this course helps you stand out, get remembered, and make connections that count. Don't let another opportunity pass you by. Relationships aren't built by accident. Tap the show notes now for instant access to the playbook and start building smarter connections today.
It's a great question, great observation. I'll tell you a fun story. When we were running the PXG Women's Match Play Championship, we had a gentleman come, I'll leave his name out of it for now, but we had a gentleman come to the tournament, and he played in our Pro-Am. He had played in countless men's Pro-Ams before. Had never played in a women's Pro-Am, had never seen an elite level woman play golf, a women's golf, professional play golf. And now he got to spend 5 hours with one of our rock stars and had a great time. And I don't know where they finished in the field, doesn't matter, but he had a great time. He pulled me over after and he said, what can I do? How do I get more involved with this level of golf? How do I get more involved with women's golf? And I'm thinking that he meant next year's tournament, right? We're all set for sponsors. We're kind of rolling and, we're the day of the tournament. And he said, no, I want to make a $10,000 contribution to the purse for this year's tournament. And that never, ever would have happened, right? If he didn't spend the day networking and being with the people that he was with. And I don't know, I think he got there. In fact, now that I think about it, I'm sure he got there because he was one of PXG's bigger customers. He bought countless sets of clubs from PXG. He was local, and PXG, being the title sponsor, invited him to play. And again, he had never seen a woman play golf at this level. And he was so enamored with it. And now here we are, fast forward 4 years later, he has a group called Access Golf. He sponsors 5 women and 5 men, spends a lot of money making sure that they're prepared, making sure they're on the top of their games. And this is something he never, ever would have done had he not been involved with this tournament at that moment with these players. And that was all about networking. It was a great opportunity. So that was a big deal that we saw get done. That was pretty interesting and pretty fun to be part of.
Yeah, that's again, I hear about these deals all the time. I talk about networking. That's my little jam there. And when you're on that golf course, you're getting to know people. You're getting to know them on different, you're doing business, but I always go back to the old saying, the old cliche, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And you get to know somebody and what they're like when they're in the middle of having a fun time on the golf course, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, I think, again, I'm pretty fresh in the business world, but I think you're seeing a full spectrum of a person when you're on the golf course with them. How do you handle when you hit a bad shot? Is that going to translate to how you handle maybe having a bad day at work? How do you handle when something goes your way? How are you handling the elements around you? I think you can tell a lot about a person on the golf course and their true personality. We see it when we watch golf on TV. You see some anger come out, you see some emotion, which is not always a bad thing, but it's good to know when you're working with other people, oh, how is this person really? So I know when I hear other people doing business on golf course, I know that they're using it kind of as a litmus test to see who this person really is, because anybody can be somebody else in a room, one-on-one, in a coffee shop, in a conversation. But when you're out there on a golf course, it is you against you out there, and it gets real interesting in the brain. So you're really seeing someone's true potential of who they could be.
Right. So in golf, it's an individual sport, but yet it's not, because you have to rely on your caddy, and you've got coaches, you've got other people who are helping create this event. So what have you learned about teamwork and leadership with working with your support team?
That's a really good question. Golf is a pretty solitary sport, so it's interesting because you do have a whole team of invisible people behind you that you know about, but not everybody else knows about. You've got your nutritionist and your trainer and your swing coach and your mental coach and PT and God knows what else everybody has now, but it's everybody is working in the same direction. They all want you to perform your best, to be your best, to do your best. And then you can have all the tools behind you. And at the end of the day, it's you and your tools. How are you going to use what you have? And you have to be open and willing to work and willing to compromise and willing to talk about hard things and make changes. So you learn how to be a team and put all of those pieces together, because your whole team behind you, even though they each do such different things, they're all working for the greater whole, which is the individual golfer. So you really learn how to speak up for yourself and how to have other people, even though they do different things, working together, rowing in the same direction. And it's a good question of building your network and people that you trust and people that work together well, and building the support system that you want to have and that you want to see. And they're kind of your projectors too, who your team is, who you are. And you want to make sure you have the right people behind you that support you to make you also look good, because that's important too. So it's all working for the best people, for the best you.
And I think you're dead on, Hannah. And I think you can take the exact same mentality into the boardroom, right? You've got your managers, you've got your bosses, you've got your underlings, you've got, all the people that work around you and with you that are all hopefully rowing in the same direction toward the same end, which is making a successful, whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is your business is, right? To make a successful firm. So I think the collaboration effort that goes hand in hand with being a golfer at this level and being a business person at this level is very similar, right? You've got to learn to work with others. You've got to learn how to use, how to filter out the advice of other people and how to accept, good advice and bad advice, right? And you got to be able to accept coaching and be able to, really look at coaching. And I think it's one of the things that makes a golfer and makes a good manager good at what they do is being able to collaborate and being able to kind of wade through the thick of all the things that are coming at you, whatever those factors are, whatever that data is, be able to process that data and then put your best foot forward using that data. So I think they're very similar, being a manager, a business person, and being a golfer.
It reminds me of a recent team meeting I had with my strategist and my podcast manager. We were in a meeting and we were batting some ideas and information around with some different strategies. And it was basically, it came down to my podcast manager says, Zelda, well, you're the leader. I'm like, yeah, but I rely on you guys to help give me the information so that I can do my best to make a good decision.
Right.
So it's like you count on them to have your back. Like you were saying, Hannah, you want good people.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you have to know that you've made the wrong decision with the people and you got to get rid of them pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely right.
What do they say? Hire slow, fire fast.
Right. That's exactly right.
So even the best golfers are constantly, y'all are refining your game. So how do you approach continuous improvement so that you advance your level?
Yeah, I think what's interesting in golf is people say it all the time. It's what keeps you coming back is there's always something to work on. You're never the best you can be. There's always one step better, 1% better every day. There's like this innate drive in you. Like you feel when you have that feeling of hitting a really good shot, it's you chase it and you want to do it again. And what can I do? What am I missing to be able to do this over and over again? And it really brings out a sense of competition and inner drive that you have. And especially for athletes, we apply that to everything. Once you have it in your sport, you have it in everything you do. If you're going to be the most efficient grocery shopper there is, you're going to do what it takes to be the most efficient grocery shopper that it is. If you're going to be the best putter on tour, what do you need to do to be the best putter on tour? So there's this always innate drive within athletes to be the best at what they do. It doesn't matter if it's drinking water or actually doing the sport that they love. They're going to find that inner drive for everything.
So it's kind of like I was going to ask you, one of my final questions was really, what can professionals learn about finding joy in their work?
That's a great one. I think there's so many things, right? Like you've got to find work that you like, first of all, right? Just like, golfers play golf because they enjoy the sport, because they enjoy the chase, they enjoy the competition, like Hannah said. I think you got to be good at relationships and you got to know the relationships. And I think those help, again, surrounding yourself with good people and just really finding the joy in waking up every morning, just knowing I want to do this today, right? I want to help my clients today. I want to help them help their clients today, right? I know that Hannah's waking up thinking I want to help, I want to help the people who want to play golf better today when she's got her teaching habit.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's really about finding the joy in what you do. And, the old saying, if you're enjoying what you do, you're not really working, right?
Exactly. I think when it really resonated with me what you were saying earlier, Hannah, about just having the joy in it. I know when I give a speech and I nail it and I've given some great information and I know I've really helped the group that I'm speaking to. Wow, you just walk off the stage or walk off the golf course and you just feel so good inside because you know you gave it your best and you just knocked it out of the park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're not supposed to knock it out of the park. You got to hit it.
Even after those great things, there's always, when you look back on it, even after a great round, you're like, God, I feel like I played my best golf today, but there's always that, but I can do this one thing better. Even after walking out of a talk, you're like, everything went really well, but I know I can be better at this. And that's that inner drive that always brings you back. There's always going to be 1% better.
Yeah, you walk out of that meeting thinking, man, if I only said this, or I said this the wrong way. And then 5 minutes later, somebody said, when you said this, it was perfect.
Right. Like, the way you
Really?
said that, I've never heard that before. That changed my life.
Right. And I'm thinking, I thought that was terrible. Right. But so you never really know. We have an expression. We have a lot of, we have a lot of things that, a lot of expressions that we created and learned and got as Hannah was going through her golf career. And some of the things are so important and intrinsic to the business one. But if one of them is if you don't win, you learn. And I thought that was always so important that even when you do win, you learn, right? But there's always something to learn. There's always something at which you can be better. There's always something at which you can succeed more. And I always thought that was an important axiom.
That is awesome. When you don't win, you still win because you've learned a lesson.
Right, right.
I've learned a lot of them lately.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I want to win and win, at this point.
Yeah, and you do. And it's good to be in a position where you recognize your wins and losses as well, right? To be self-aware enough to realize that, maybe that wasn't such a great day after all, but I'm gonna be better tomorrow.
So any last minute advice for our listeners for how the golf game translates into the business world, or any parting words?
That's always such a hard one because you expect something lofty and
just something genuine.
And earth moving. Yeah, and I don't know that I think what's important, one of the things that's become more important for me, and I think for a golfer, is you've got to have a variety of shots, right? You got to be able to approach every shot from a number of different ways, and you got to be able to hit a 9-iron as well as you hit a driver. You got to be able to give a presentation as well as you do a sales speech. You got to be able to, to write that report as well as you do anything else. So I think having a variety of shots is really important in both business and golf.
So how can our audience reach out to either of you? If they want to reach out to you, how can they do that? And whatever you tell us, we're going to put it in the show notes so that they
Uh-oh,
get it there as well.
that's scary. For me, you can always find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on our website, which is mediashareconsulting.com. Email address, which is long, is mberman@mediashareconsulting.com. And I'm always here to help talk. It doesn't have to be a client relationship. If someone just wants to ask a couple questions, then I'm all about helping.
Great. How about you, Hannah?
Yeah, same thing. I'm always reachable by email. That mine's a little easier. It's just hannahgolf@att.net. Anything from golf swing advice to, tournament course strategy, all things that I've learned and I wish I was better at while I was playing, but hindsight's always 2020, and now I can help other people be better than I ever was, which makes me really happy. So.
And in case you can't remember that, I'm Zelda with Success Through Connection. So I'll always connect you to Hannah and Mark as well if you need that. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your successes and your wins and your losses with us today. And just for our audience, just remember that the next time that you're under pressure or you have a decision you need to make, think about what Mark and Hannah have shared with us today of how they stay top of game in their career. So again, thank you so much for being with us. This is Success Through Connections. Until next time, this is Zelda.
This is Success Through Connections, where small talk leads to big wins. Today's episode was brought to you by Up Until Now, the company helping you master the art of networking.